It is no secret that Maine and the nation are facing not only an opioid epidemic, but an addiction crisis. The number of people overdosing and dying rises almost every year and has been on a steady incline for about a decade.
That grim reality is the focus of a new series being featured on Maine Public called Voices of Hope, The Rugged Road to Recovery. The series is partially made possible by the SEED program, or Students Empowered to End Dependency, a small group of students across the state who wanted to spark conversations about addiction and do it through the power of storytelling.
Joshua Phillips, Catherine Morin, and Charlie Moore all joined Students Empowered to End Dependency, or SEED, for different reasons.
Beyond Maine's beautiful landscape, there's a dark, desperate crisis, a substance abuse epidemic.
But their goal is the same: remove the stigma around addiction. How will they do that? By documenting the raw stories of real people and their struggles with substance use disorder right here in Maine. Phillips is in charge of the production's animations. Morin conducts and logs interviews, and Moore has added a musical touch to the mix.
The opiate part of it just came out of nowhere. We had no idea.
We started noticing behavior, odd behavior with them. They were irritable and things like that. And then we started finding drug paraphernalia in their rooms, and they had moved on from marijuana to pills.
It's a pretty heavy topic that you guys are talking about, addiction. It's serious, and it touches so many of our lives these days. Do you think that this series is one that every Maine student should see? And
yes.
Why?
Yes.
Jump in.
I believe that everybody should see this because, even I was learning from it as I was working on the animations. Once I learned from Dave and the information that I got, that 25% of the people out of the 260 million adults, which you'll see later in the show, have experienced some sort of substance use. It shocked me in a way, and I think everybody should learn from this because substance use is a very important topic, and we want to make sure that people understand how this not only affects them physically but mentally and socially, and how it'll affect other people around them.
I think at our school we watch these videos from these major organizations, and I think if we could somehow introduce the show into our schools, people would be able to connect to it on more of a personal level and see how this is happening in our community. And I think people would gain a lot of, they would learn a lot from the realization that this is happening around us, and I think we could definitely benefit from having this in our schools.
Yeah, it's a really interesting dichotomy between people tend to glorify drug use, but then on the other hand, if you develop substance use disorder, you're suddenly a bad person. There's a lot of stigma attached to it, and both views are just complete 180s from each other. What Voices of Hope aims to do is reduce the stigma about substance use disorder. And we do that by simply telling stories. And through telling stories, we're able to connect with people that otherwise wouldn't be open to hearing about these issues. So it helps humanize people with this illness. And once you humanize someone, you can completely change their mind and create a lot of positive change.
What are some of your biggest takeaways, and how do you think this program is going to influence you guys down the road?
That is a big question. Yeah. I think initially it's completely changed my perspective on substance use disorder. Because before I started working on this project, it kind of freaked me out, and I didn't really want to deal with it or talk about it, and I was a little scared about it. But I've since met people with this illness. I've learned a ton about it. I have firsthand experience working with people who have these stories, and so it's completely changed my mind in that aspect. And now I have a job educating people about it. So for me, on a personal level, it's completely changed my whole outlook on the issue.
I'm gonna have to agree. It definitely changed my outlook on substance use as well, because I didn't realize that this was such a serious, such an important topic until I worked with them.
You can love them as hard as you want and do the best you can, but the bottom line is they got to make that decision. You can put everything in front of them, but the best you can do is is spend the time you can with them.
I learn a lot from it, and I think they do too when they're working on their projects for it.
Being a part of this, having this opportunity has made me want to learn a lot more, and it made me realize how substance abuse is really affecting our community in Maine. And I think that's something that everyone, and something that I have learned from a lot. And as career goes, I think, this really opened up my, I don't know the word. It's allowed me to see how my music can affect people. And I think that's an inspiration to keep writing songs and to keep playing music. And that's something I definitely want to do in the future.
As we mentioned, Voices of Hope, the Rugged Road to Recovery docuseries, is available to watch now on Maine Public. You can learn even more about it and the students you just heard from on our website and mobile app. And you can hear one of Charlie's original songs, which is featured in the series, coming up a little later in the show. And obviously these kids, key players in getting this series off the ground. I think there are 12 pieces right now, but David Packham, Reggie Groff, Tori Ryden, also huge players in it. And like the kids said, it's a topic, it's uncomfortable, it's hard to talk about, but it's so important.
They've keyed into something that's really crucial too, and that is the power of storytelling.
Yes.
When we hear statistics about the addiction crisis, it doesn't take long before our eyes kind of glaze over, but when you hear the story of a person, of a family, then that is what connects with us always.
Absolutely. Absolutely.